initial reactions?
I mean, you know, Johnny was winning the fight comfortably like he was in the first fight till the 5th round. And he just got caught by that kind of big overhand right, which is Dave's kind of signature. Scrambled the senses, but he was just starting to apply the pressure smartly. And from there, he gets to his feet. Probably, having seen it back, arguably, he shouldn't continue at that point. But at the same time, the ref's got to give him a chance, you know, on this occasion. And it wasn't like for the first knockout when there was horrifically clean shots raining in on him. They were mainly around the side of the head. Thank you. And also at that point, you've got 10 seconds to go. I hear the klaxon when they put them back together, and it was on the bell, the big left hook on the bell. It's very difficult for the ref to jump in while Dave Allen's swinging away, but you know, I'm just glad that Johnny got up, you know, got to his feet eventually, and you know, he was fine the whole time. But you know, it was a heavy knockout. It was a dramatic knockout, heavyweight boxing. You know, it's like everybody's talking about it, and that's what happens when you have those big nights, big moments.
In terms of the next steps, could you see this being a rebuild process for Johnny, or could you see the trilogy with Dave Allen potentially happening?
Yeah, I can see the trilogy one day, but not next, in my opinion. I mean, you know, I'm pretty honest to the point where when you get a chance to run it back like we did tonight, you know, it's like, should we have taken a rematch tonight? I still think the answer is yes, because we won the first fight. It was very close, but if you're going to go to the levels that we hope you will, you learn from the first fight and you beat Dave Allen in the rematch. He wasn't good enough in that fight. Therefore, you don't want to, having been knocked out like that, with the inexperience of Johnny Fisher, just automatically go back into number 3. So, you know, Dave's obviously now with Matchroom again. He's laughing about that with him, and it's going to be exciting to see what's next. The Johnny Fisher trilogy is there. There's a headline fight in Sheffield. You know, there's keeping him active as well. Dave's got a massive profile and he's extremely likeable. You could hear it in there tonight. You know? And by the way, he's a lot better than he thinks he is when he gets it right. And I think he's still got a lot to give.
With Dave Allen, if he is to headline a show with Matchroom, you see it being against the winner of Jamie TKB and David Allen later?
Possibly. Dave Allen's actually going to be really hard to beat when he's confident. He's a big lump. He's got a great chin, he can whack, and his ring IQ is good. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's next.
Just finally from me, the all-parliamentary group for boxing, which I know Matchroom is involved with, they're going to commission a report to the government soon. What will be your message to the government in relation to boxing gyms needing to secure more funding?
You've got to do something. You know, you've got kids who are on the streets with machetes and knives with absolutely no fear, and they consistently aren't, listening to the rules. And we know that something's not working. In boxing gyms, people learn respect, manners, discipline, and what's right and wrong. And at the end of the day, there isn't a lot of investment required to give better opportunities for kids in the community. A lot of these kids don't have parents and role models and people. They get that in the gym with coaches. And I promise that anyone that walks through the gym and starts and joins an amateur boxing club will change their life and become more disciplined and lead a better life. And it's not happening in the classrooms. It's not happening, so it baffles me that they just don't make that investment in the community. I'm not saying it's going to solve everything, but it will make a significant difference.
And we had a fight announced tonight, Jack Catterall, Harlem Newman. It's a 147. Is that a permanent move for Jack Catterall?
I think Jack wanted a big fight. After the Barboza fight, which was really disappointing. I was like, do you want a 10-round comeback fight? He went, no, I don't want a 10-round comeback. I just want the biggest fight you can find me. The weight cut for Barboza and probably Taylor was starting to get a little bit difficult. He's been at 140 a long time. And originally we talked about Harlem Eubank maybe doing it at 145, something like that. I mean, Harlem was at 140 as well previously. And Jack went, look, I'm happy to do it at 147. And obviously Harlem was pleased to do it. I actually didn't think Harlem would take that fight, if I'm honest. And, it is risky for Jack, because if he gets beat, he's done. It's just a really good fight. Like, obviously the Eubank name is hot right now, and we will see on July 5th who will lick them up. who will be victorious?
Catterall is obviously his arch rival. We always talk about the Josh Taylor trilogy. He's obviously moving up to welterweight for next week. Is that something, a possibility in the future?
We actually talked about that trilogy, you know, and I think it's got every chance. I mean, he's got to beat Callum next week. That's not a given. You know, but the fight came up with Harlem Eubank and Jack, and I just thought, I like it. You know, I like the fight a lot, and I'm pleased to get it made. The response has been fantastic, and we look forward to welcoming the Eubanks, and maybe we can get a win this time.
At this stage of his career for Josh Taylor, how do you think he gets on with Callum?
Do you know what? I'll be honest, I haven't seen a huge amount of Echo. I saw him fight the last fight, I think it was in Birmingham. What he's got, he's a great engine, is his nickname. And it's just whether Josh can kind of carry that up to 147. Again, for him, like when we did Taylor Catterall 2, we actually talked about that fight up at 142 or 143. And Josh said, no, I want it at 140. That actually quite surprised me. And he said he made the weight fine, but I just think after a while, like you need to move up in weight, and that's the same for Jack.
With Johnny Fisher losing tonight, I mean, his comeback, will it be interesting to see what kind of crowd he draws in next time?
No, because he won't be headlining. Like, there's a huge amount of pressure headlining. Like, you've got to sell all the tickets. It's your night, right? And when he walked out tonight, well, I mean, the atmosphere is mental. Like, you're looking around. This place is not historic for selling tickets, right? The Copperbox doesn't generally do that well. You very rarely see it full up like that, right? And like, he has no experience, right? He had the Alan Babbage fight, which was like 1 round, and then he had the last Dave Allen fight. That was all the experience, and we hoped that experience of that 10-round fight would be enough for him to improve and get the better of Dave Allen. He won the first, I mean, arguably might have lost the first round, but basically won the next 3. Might have been 4-0, 3-1 at worst. But it wasn't getting the respect of Dave Allen. You know, I think he hurt him a couple of times to the body, actually, but it's just like, you're allowing Dave Allen to walk you down consistently. You know, you've got your lead hand out, and it's like, it's not really working. I mean, the only other person that's done that with success is Vladimir Klitschko. You know, and for me, it was just the experience and the ring IQ of Dave Allen and the size of him, because he makes you fight. And what happens is the same thing happened in this fight that happened in the first fight. Dave started to exert his pressure on him, and the energy level started to deplete for Johnny. And he made a mistake, got caught by the big right. I said to him in the ring, just before the fight, the bell started, I went, mind the fucking right hand over the top. It's Dave's like signature shot. I'm not saying he hasn't got anything else, but that is the one real dangerous shot that he has. You know, and the hand was too low, gets caught around the side of the head. But I was just watching it back then, like, if you actually look at it, that 4th round, Dave was starting to back him up, throw more punches. And to be fair, he did everything he said in the presser. He said, I won't do much for the first 3 rounds. Then I'll start throwing a few more punches. And then I'll start, and that's exactly what he did.
Definitely, obviously, you mentioned that he could headline in Sheffield. Like, what kind of calibre opponent could we see Dave against? Obviously, he's top 15 with WBA with that ranking.
Yeah, I think like, Dave's a lot better than he thinks. Do you know what I mean? And he said to me tonight, he's like, you know, I'm not sure Johnny Fisher's that good, he said to me. I said, well, I think maybe you're really good when you actually are fit, when you actually believe in yourself, and when you're listening to your training team. So I think there's a couple of options. I mean, he's with us now moving forward, so we've got to look at it and say, do you want to stay active and get back in the ring? It could just be maybe an 8 or a 10 round or a defence of your title. Or do you want to get as big a fight as possible? In the past, Dave Allen would have always gone the latter. But with Jamie and Nigel around him, like they're saying to him, they said to me, she's got to get him back in the gym. Don't let him out of the gym for too long. Because he's like, it's at an all-time high weight-wise. And I don't think it really matters, to be honest with you. But I don't know what's good and bad for Dave Allen, because I've had him in shape before, and he's been shit. And I've had him fat, and he's been great. Do you know what I mean? It's like, with Dave, it's just up here. And tonight, he fancied the job. You know, he really fancied the job.
And 2 really good wins for George Liddard and Kieran Conway as well. Definitely something next to that.
Yeah, I said earlier, like for me, Kieran Conway's 22 years old. George Liddard's 22 years old. So like, it's a big, you know, Kieran Conway's been around. I think he's getting better, and he's really finding his teeth at that level. Like, I think he's enjoying. He can beat people up now. George is probably one of the most improved fighters I think in Britain. And not that he wasn't good anyway, but I didn't expect him to be at this level so soon. He wants to roll the dice, but it's up to Tony. And if they fancy it, I would love to make it.
Definitely as well. And I see that Jake Donovan released an article that Callum Smith had a request from the WBO denied to consolidate the WBO. Where does that sit, Dimitri, with our Artemetov trilogy, and where Callum Smith?
Yeah, I think Callum's lawyer, Sean O'Toole, STN, just wrote to the WBO and said, look, we're the interim world champion. We'd like to kind of force the mandatory, and they said, not yet. We are in negotiations with David Benavides for that fight. We've been talking about the Anthony Yard fight as well, or a defence of that interim title against a top 15 in Liverpool. So Callum's got a lot of options. He'll be out probably September time.
And can you see the trilogy between Benavides and Bivol?
Yes, you'll see that. You'll probably November. So it's a big, Kieran's always been around. I think he's getting better, and he's really finding his teeth at that level. I think he's enjoying. He can beat people up now. George is probably one of the most improved fighters I think in Britain. And not that he wasn't good anyway, but I didn't expect him to be at this level so soon. He wants to roll the dice, but it's up to Tony. And if they fancy it, I would love to make it.
Definitely as well. And I see that Jake Donovan released an article that Callum Smith had a request from the WBO denied to consolidate the WBO. Where does that sit, Dimitri, with our Artemetov trilogy, and where Callum Smith?
Yeah, I think Callum's lawyer, Sean O'Toole, STN, just wrote to the WBO and said, look, we're the interim world champion. We'd like to kind of force the mandatory, and they said, not yet. We are in negotiations with David Benavides for that fight. We've been talking about the Anthony Yard fight as well, or a defence of that interim title against a top 15 in Liverpool. So Callum's got a lot of options. He'll be out probably September time.
And can you see the trilogy between Benavides and Bivol?
Yes, you'll see that. You'll probably November.
Paddy, just one from me. Have you received any offers from Turkey for Teofimo and Boot Sellers?
Not really any offers, but we're talking about it. I think with Boots, it's just a case of whether he stays at 147. He really only wants to stay there to fight for more belts. So the Teofimo fight wasn't really an option, but we quite like it because I think it's a fight he wins. I think it's a high-profile fight, and if the money's good, I suggest he takes it. But if he doesn't feel he can perform at his best at 147, then he may move to 54.
And then just on what Turkey said during the press conference about Shakur and Tank, do you think that's realistic?
Who else is Tank going to fight? I mean, if he beats Lamont Roach, which is not a given, I really only see that fight for him. But Shakur's got to go out and look good against Zepeda, which I believe he will. And it's his chance, really, to back up all the hype.
Do you think Tank beats Roach in the rematch?
Yeah.
I spoke with Anthony Joshua a few weeks back, and he said about his interest in an investment into Watford Football Club. With the long-standing relationship with Anthony Joshua that they have, would there be any matchroom involvement in that investment?
That is the wildest question I've ever had, and the answer is fucking absolutely not.
I did hear that, obviously,
What did you hear?
Yeah, here we go. I did hear that, obviously, yourself and Barry owned Leyton Orient, that if AJ's investment was to go through, that Barry might take a place on the board. Did you hear that?
The biggest load of shit I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, no. Nothing wrong with Watford Football Club. Big fan, and I love Elton John, one of my favourite artists. But we had our run at Leyton Orient, and we're happy to be supporters now at Wembley, particularly next Sunday in the playoff final. We will not be returning to football, other than Brentwood Town Football Club, which my old man stuck a few quid into.
First of all, congratulations on Leyton Orient going to
Yes,
the
yes.
It's all that. Dave Allen. Will it be eyes on the British the winner of the British between
I think
TKB
Dave,
and
I think Dave is. I just want Dave to get the best out of what he's got. Dave used to really piss me off because I thought he had so much potential that he never showed as a fighter, and it used to wind me up. And it's like now you're seeing that come back again. It's like, Dave, just for the next year, just take it seriously, believe in yourself, listen to Jamie and Nigel, and go from there. And he's a good fighter, Dave. Like, he's British and European level. That's where he's at. He's not a world-class heavyweight, but he's British and European level. So let's see what's next. Maybe give him a chance to headline in Sheffield. I think it'd be nice. A lot of people like Dave Allen. He's a very popular guy.
Do you think, obviously, this tonight will be so pivotal in his career that he's won his first belt and to maybe take what time he's got left more serious?
Yeah, but look, Dave's Dave, and more importantly, he had a good payday in Saudi. He had an even better payday tonight, and he's going to have an even better payday for the next one. and the next one. I think we've got 2 fights with him now, 3 fights, I don't know. And it's all great money. So Dave Allen is going to be financially secure for the rest of his life.
With the 3 fights that you've got, where would you, and who would you like to see him first?
I mean, look, we can, potentially look at the trilogy. It's not for now, but maybe that's one for next year. Fight for the European title, fight the winner of Adelaide against TKV, fight a big world name in Sheffield. Got to just sit down with him and, plot out the future.
How many fights would you like Johnny to have if there is to be a trilogy before he faces David?
At least 2. At least 2. You got to get more experience because, and I felt a bit sorry for him in there at times tonight because he was just like, you just haven't got the experience to deal with this guy. Yeah. And you can show as much heart as you want, but it's like a ticking time bomb. He's going to get you. And unfortunately he did.
And just finally, is Johnny okay?
Yeah, he's fine. He's devastated because he worked so hard in this camp. And actually going into the first fight, he didn't really feel great, but he felt great going into this fight. Yeah. And sometimes I will say in that instance to a fighter, listen, you can look yourself in the mirror and know that you did everything you could. And he said, I know, I did, and I still weren't good enough. And that kind of hurt, that's the truth of it. But that's high level sport, that's life. If you're not good enough, you don't win. And that's what happened tonight.